Let me begin then, though, by asking this group, if you had this new nominee behind closed doors, just assume that this audience is not here and that I'm not here, if you had this nominee behind closed doors, what would the group want to convey to him about the job and the lessons that you've learned from your experience to help him succeed in this position? And I'll turn to Secretary Burnley first as the senior most of the formers.
Behind closed doors, as well as in public, I think his challenge is to establish his leadership as early as he can as secretary. That is particularly important because he's coming from Charlotte, coming from out of town. Many of us served in various capacities in the department, knew its rhythms, knew who you could trust, who you had to second guess by the time we got the role, or had served elsewhere in the federal government. And I think it is a particularly daunting thing to come to town and, as your first job on the federal level, be the secretary of a major cabinet department. Now, he's been mayor of a good-sized city, and so he understands that role, the leadership role, by definition. But it is a very different environment, I think we'd all agree. And the problem that he has is that, you know, there's not a lot of time for the learning curve. While the Surface Transportation Bill does not have to be renewed until next year, the issues just in that one legislative exercise are so daunting and so complex that to get his hands and his mind around those and put his stamp on what the administration position is going to be early on is I think, a very important step for him to take, but it's not going to be an easy step.
My counsel would be to bring peripheral vision to the job, knowing that there are a lot of people with tunnel vision who are already at the Department of Transportation. And trust those people with tunnel vision, but remember the tunnel vision doesn't necessarily get the job done. It has to be done in the context of the peripheral vision, so you have to invite outside influences to bring reality to the solution. I would also suggest that respect the career government service workers at the Department of Transportation. The vast majority of them are there for the right reasons and to do the right job, and I don't think you should view them skeptically. I think that you should view them with the benefit of the doubt rather than coming in with doubt, and that you should learn to respect them and develop a level of trust that you can invite them to be wise counselors as well, because if you ask, they do offer counsel. If you don't ask, they offer advice. And I think the counsel is almost more important than the advice because they learn how to manage the challenges of the bureaucracy. There is also a bureaucracy on Capitol Hill. And that bureaucracy is something that the secretary cannot control, but he has to learn how to respect it. And the career staffers at the Department of Transportation probably understand how to respect the congressional bureaucracy better than the political leadership inside the department.
I think I'd start with Our Father who art in heaven. Because here's a person being parachuted into this job from local government. And I did come from local government. I was mayor of San Jose when I came to Congress. And I think that as he comes in, he's going to have to do two things. One is look to the past, and at the same time, how does he create solutions for the future? And and I had great counsel because I had the benefit of a person who was chief of staff to the president who had been Secretary of Transportation. So I had great counsel and mentorship from Andy in my job. So here's a person who gets parachuted in from local government, and he really has to rely on that building full of professionals. And what I would say to him is seek the best advice from the bureaucracy. And if there are any political issues to be dealt with, you deal with them from the 10th floor. Let them come with their best advice, and then you round the corners from a political perspective. And but the big thing is to have a good ear. Listen to what what people are saying to you, and I think that because of Mayor Foxx's background, he's been innovative, and he's shown leadership in Charlotte. I think those two qualities will serve him well at the department.
I think what I would say is a lot like what my colleagues have said. And in fact, I had a conversation with Norm Mineta the night before my nomination was announced that I felt a little like Ginger Rogers. I was going to have to dance backward and in high heels to follow the footsteps of the gentlemen that are on this stage with me here today. And hopefully I was able to do some of that. I felt it was important to first get the ear of the president. At the time your nomination is announced and you're going through the confirmation process, that is a really good time to hear from the president where he wants you to go and what he wants you to do with that department. And this president, to his credit, has been very vocal about mentioning transportation. Second, I would go visit with members of the appropriation and the authorizing committees, particularly the chairs of those committees, see what's coming along the pike with them and how you might be able to work with the president's goals along with those members. Next, I would visit with the administrators, the undersecretary and the deputy secretary within the department. And Rodney, maybe you and I have the unique perspective of having been a modal administrator. You want to get their ear, what's going on, what's about to bite you on the backside, but also what can you advance in moving toward the future. And then talk also with staff, and as was said by my predecessors here, talk with staff, find out what's going on with them. I found the career staff absolutely willing to engage in whatever goals you set, as long as you communicated what those goals were. In the absence of that, as you said, Andy, they'll try to do a lot of things, so give them a true north to go to, and that would be my last piece of advice. Having heard all of this, take your experience, and I think it's good that he's an outsider because he's not married to the way things we've always done. Take this, identify 3 to 5 key critical goals that you and the president want to accomplish during the remainder of his tenure, and then focus on those, let your deputy be the chief operating officer, and really focus on those goals and making those goals happen.
Well, I guess I have a unique perspective because when I became Secretary of Transportation, I never served in Washington in any capacity in an administration, so I was coming from Chicago, and all of mine had been local. And so, and number two, I was working for a person who I knew well, who was totally willing to delegate to me, be Secretary of Transportation. I'm not going to micromanage you. You decide what's best, you come back, and we'll figure out how to do it. And so I had basically total imprimatur to kind of do what I was best, subject to certain rules that had to be followed. So I would suggest, number one, if you haven't been here, you need a few good people around you who have been here and are well-respected or apolitical, that know what they're doing and can help you. I had Galen Reeser, who had worked for Senator Percy, who was my first hire, and Galen was able to kind of have me negotiate the Congress. I brought a couple people from Chicago, which I think you need to have your own people here that didn't know a whole lot about transportation, but I knew were totally loyal. And then I got to replace my entire team. I picked all 17 of the key positions, and that meant I had to develop a great working relationship with the Office of Presidential Personnel. Number two, I had to develop a great relationship with Office of Management and Budget as I went through the process. And number three, everyone that worked for me knew they were there because I had recommended them, or I at least signed off on them to the president. Then the next thing I started to do, and I would suggest he do, is get to know the department well. And that's get out and meet the people. And I'm not talking about the least, I'm talking about the people that do the work every day. I couldn't agree more with all of the people before. The Department of Transportation has some tremendous people in it. Many of them never get asked. They never, they never get brought in. I can't tell you the number of people that I brought in the Secretary's office that had never been there in 20 years in their career. Involve them. At the same time, you got to sit on them sometimes, but sit on them professionally and listen to them and make your own judgment. And then finally, set your priorities consistent with what the president wants and what his interests are that you can achieve. so that you have 2 or 3 objectives, and don't let the other things pull you too far away from 2 or 3 objectives that you want, that you can accomplish early stage, so that you can get credibility. And the only way you're going to do that, and I would just add this final thing, is develop wonderful relationships on the Hill. I was on the Hill every day. They were in my office every day. I traveled to Owensboro, Kentucky. I had to go to Paris with some of them. I can't understand that, but we developed a wonderful relationship. I'm a Republican, they're Democrats. The House and the Senate were controlled, but we all had one goal, and that's what I think if you start out that way, they all want something to happen. They want something good to happen, and if you can help them and you can help, and they can help you, you'll get something done. So those would be my objectives. And I think I'd sit down with each one of us and get a few words of wisdom or advice from each and every one of us before we got too far down the road.
Well, first of all, I'd echo the sentiments expressed by all of my colleagues. I would just say that in addition to that, I think it's very important for the mayor to focus on strengths that are naturally his. One, the president is clearly a believer in his abilities. They have a strong relationship. The mayor hosted a wonderful and successful Democratic convention that was very important to the president's reelection effort. There were a number of people that he'll have an opportunity to work with who were a part of that effort with him. He's had the experience of working with Republicans and Democrats. He has a Republican governor who used to be the mayor of Charlotte, who he's had a very good relationship with. They've wrestled over various issues, but that's good because he'll have to do the same thing when he gets here. He's also been involved in a number of things that are important to the administration. The whole issue of high-speed rail. Charlotte would be a very important part of that initiative if it were to continue to develop and unfold, and it should. Especially the connection to Atlanta, possibly. He's also been involved in bringing transit to a southern state, which is very, very significant, one of the fastest growing regions of the country, and he's been involved in that effort. And he's also had some experience working with with companies that are involved in electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, that sort of thing. So another very important job here. And then with a major airport in a city that is a key hub for one of the airlines involved in a merger that is before the administration currently, I think gives him insight that will be helpful also. But clearly, looking at transportation as something more than concrete, asphalt, and steel, but something that involves people, and something that helps them enjoy and improve quality of life is a mindset that I think will be very helpful as he goes to the department, a department that is peopled with very committed, capable, and steady team members that he'll have the opportunity to work with. And that includes not only the political staff that's there and that will join him, but also, as has been noted, the career staff. That is, I would say, an excellent team. I mean, I had a wonderful experience. I know Mort did. Mort, our deputy secretary, had a wonderful experience working with them, and many of them were brought into the strategy sessions, the decision-making sessions that we had to really help us deal with some of the challenges we faced during the time we were there.